Hi, I'm Dani Johnson. Thanks so much for joining me today. Hey, have you ever felt like your past dictates what your future is going to look like? Have you ever been in that place where you thought you were disqualified because of maybe, you didn't make the best choices in your early years? Well, listen. You're looking at somebody right now who made the worst of choices, and I came from a family line of worse choices, right? What do I mean? My mom was a teenage pregnancy. Her mother was a teenage pregnancy. Her mother before her was a teenage pregnancy, and I was a teenage pregnancy. All of us out of wedlock, by the way. Okay? Pregnant at 17, homeless at 21. I grew up in a violently abusive, drug-infested home where I was mentally, emotionally, and physically abused weekly, sometimes daily, as well as I was molested from the time I was 3 until I was 16 years old. So my life was like the perfect high drama setup for an early suicide. First time I tried to commit suicide, I was 6 years old. When I was 17 and a half and pregnant, I found out that the man that raised me was not my dad, but that I had a different father. I met and married a guy that I knew for 7 days. Yep. Got married 7 days later after meeting a guy in a hotel. In a hotel lobby, of all places to meet somebody. Homeless. Tried to sell my body for drugs. Abusing alcohol, weed, anything I can get my hands on, giving my body over for food. Like, it was bad. It was really bad. And I always believed that because of my past, that my past now somehow limited the doors I would be able to walk through, limited my opportunities, that it would always haunt me, that it would always dictate who my friends would be, who I would marry, what kind of money I would not make, what kind of career life I would not have, and the quality of the kind of children that I would produce, that everything from back there would completely dictate everything moving forward. Well, friend, I want to take you to a place where I learned how that did not have to be the case. The best success book ever written. It is something that I found actually as I was 13 years old. I had dyslexia, so I had a really hard time understanding this big, giant, thick book that had huge words that were way beyond my ability to read. I was dyslexic, so obviously I couldn't read those words. And in all reality, dyslexic, I couldn't understand it. I didn't know what the definitions were of the words. I saw this book to be so outrageously confusing. But fortunately, I had the opportunity to get healed of all of that. And in that process, that best success book ever written, the Bible, has been the greatest tool that's ever been able to be in my life. It's ever been given to me, the greatest tool that I have used more than I've used any other tool that I've ever learned from any human. Yep, a book about a bunch of dead people has given me life, great life. And I want to take you a passage that helped me in my journey to have a fresh new look and to tear down some of these terrible beliefs that I had, that I would never amount to anything, that my life would always be hard, that people would never love me, that I would never be able to trust anybody. All of those thoughts that kept me stuck in the cycle of failure got broken. And I want to take you to a place where perhaps it might break for you as well. So if you have that best success book ever written, the Bible, turn to 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 26. Again, that's 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 26. And here's what it says. And I read from the version called the Scriptures, and it's amazing. It's the closest to the Hebrew, the original Hebrew text versus Greek to English. I mean, Hebrew to Greek to English. Forget about it. It's a different conversation for a different time. So you ready? Okay, so it says this. For look at your calling, my brothers and sisters, that not many among you are wise, according to the flesh. Okay? So you is a little dense. Is what he's saying to his friends that he's writing to. Okay, this is Paul. He's writing a letter. Okay, he's like, you is a little dumb. Okay, according to what other humans might think. You're kind of dense, kind of dumb, kind of slow. Man, when I read this, I'm like, he's talking about me. Okay, so let's do that again. Hey, look at your calling. What is that? Look at your purpose. Look at what you're doing with your life. Look at what you've been set to do, okay? And he, by the way, he made saddles. That's what he did. He was actually a businessman, and he made saddles, and he taught the things of the Torah, which is the Bible. He taught those things to people as he was working and as he was selling his saddles, as he was selling his goods in the marketplace. So he was a marketplace man who had a deep love for the understanding of the Bible. Now, mind you, this passage of 1 Corinthians, this was not written yet, right? He wrote a letter to some people who lived in Corinth, which is in Greece, right? So he wrote a letter to some guys that he met in his travels. He's just like, booking it by foot. He's a hiker, right? He likes to jump on a boat now and again and like travel. And while he's traveling, he likes to study these scrolls, and he'd memorized a lot of these, and he'd like to study like the history of his people, which was the Bible. Was not any of the New Testament, because the New Testament did not exist yet. In fact, the New Testament wasn't even, in fact, the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, were not even written for 70 years after Jesus was died. So 70 years after Jesus died is when the Gospels had been penned. So those guys that wrote them, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, those guys were old, like older than I am, okay? So these guys were old, and the reality was, while they were old, they're like, hey, you know what happened? Dude, this is what happened. Dude, I saw this, and I saw this, and dude, this guy like spit on some dirt, made some mud, and wiped it on some blind guy's eyes, and the guy saw, right? So they were journaling the things that they had seen, okay? So I hope that brings some kind of context to you. So here's Paul. He's like a hiker. He's in the construction field, makes some tents, makes some saddles. He sells them to people. So he's kind of like that guy at the flea market, who like has some leather goods and he's selling them to you, right? That's who Paul is. And on the side, he really loves the study of his history. He loves the study of what was not called the Bible. It didn't have the title Bible, had the title Torah, the Torah. He loved to read about the writings. Who was this? The writings of the prophets. Right? He liked to read the things that the prophets like spoke of. They were the seers of their time. Sadly, not in the metaphysical world, you would call that the tarot card readers and the psychics and the horoscope writers and stuff like that. But so these guys, right? So they're all working class. Every last one of them were working class. Everyone who wrote in the Bible actually were working class citizens, like you and me. We work, we have jobs, we have businesses, we got families. Okay, so it's just like normal guys, and so anyway, so he loved to read the history of his people, which is what we call the Tanakh, which is the Old Testament, right? That's what modern day people call it, but it was never called the Old Testament. It was called the Torah. Okay, it was called the writings and the prophets, right? So that's what it was. These were basically scribes who wrote down what was happening during their time in history, right? So he liked to study that stuff, okay? And he worked hard. He made his own money. He bought his own bread. He wasn't a burden on anybody, okay? He wasn't a welfare recipient or a church recipient. There wasn't churches back then. There were synagogues where were places where a small community would get together and do what? They would read the Torah, the writings, and the prophets. They would read the history, their personal history of their lives, where they came from, the foods that they ate, how to stay healthy, how to stay married. They read the battles, the instructions about, what happens if, my ox kills your ox. What happens? What am I supposed to do with that? It's written in this book, right? Okay, so I hope you got some context here. Hope you got what I'm talking about. All right. So for a look at your calling, my brothers and sisters, okay? What's your calling? Like, what are you doing? He was a tent maker, some people believe, a saddle maker, other people believe, depending on, whatever. Anyway, so, he's a hardworking guy. What's your calling, dude? You're in Corinth. You're in Greece. What are you doing? What are you doing with your life? What are you called to? Well, I'm a husband, okay? So then I'm called to my wife. I'm a father. I'm called to my children, okay? I have a business. I'm in construction. I'm called to that business, all right? Hope that makes sense. That not many among you are wise. You is dense, bro. You is a little slow, bro. according to the flesh, according to what other people think. Now, this is a time, by the way, and a place. The Greeks were known as the philosophers. They were known as those people who are like, like all the horoscope stuff came out of the Greeks, okay? And so these guys would just sit and philosophize. Come on, that like deep thinking picture. I mean, the statue of the naked guy thinking. Well, he might be thinking he's a little cold. Might want to put some clothes on, right? Anyway, so they were the thinkers. They were the philosophers. They were the guys that, like, ooh, wow, I wonder. They just like sit and trip on stuff and maybe like smoke some hash or something. I don't know. Maybe they did. But that was the Greek. So look at him. He says, like, so you kind of dense, kind of slow according to the flesh, according to the smart people in the world. And not many among you are mighty. So you're not like the bodybuilders. You're not the strong warriors. You're not a Marine. You're not Army. You're not Air Force, right? You're not Navy, okay? So many among you are not even mighty. You're a little weak, man. You're a little flabby going on over there, okay? Not many among you are high birth. So, not many among you, had parents that were dignitaries or congressmen or presidents or, your dad wasn't Bill Gates or Steve Jobs, the late Steve Jobs. You weren't of high birth, you weren't born a prince or a princess. You were not born somebody super important and special. You were not born of some noble birth. Okay. So are you catching what I'm throwing? Okay. So look, so you're not very smart. You're kind of weak, suck. And you weren't born into a rich family or a popular family. You weren't born into like a government family. You weren't born into an important family. You just low, bro. You just low. Okay? Verse 27. But, I love but, Elohim, which means God in Hebrew, has chosen the foolish ones. Who are the foolish ones? The kind of slow, not so smart ones? The kind of ones that are kind of noted to be slow and not so smart. Don't talk very well. Okay? So the foolish ones of the world to shame the so-called wise. I love this passage. So it's like, whoa, wait, because I so identify with this, don't you? Like, don't you identify with this? Okay, I grew up on welfare, right? I was dumb enough to get pregnant out of wedlock at 17 and really dumb to become homeless at 21. Okay, suicidal all the way. Who was I born to? A welfare receiving family who used every government handout possible to stay lazy, broke, and dumb. So I was born in the broken, dumb family. I was the broken, dumb girl. Not of high birth. Not of great strength. My parents never worked a day in my life that I can remember. I do not recall ever my dad getting up and going to work. And I'm talking about the man that raised me, not my biological father. My biological father was a workaholic at times. Okay? My mom, she was a mom. She was a mom on welfare. That's what she was. She did try to go to college to become a nurse and dropped out of that. Broke her neck when she was 29 years old and was paralyzed from the neck down. Had some major trauma. Okay, so do you identify with this? Are you slow? Kind of dumb? Okay? And not so strong and not of high birth? All right, then he's talking to you. But God has chosen you to shame the so-called high birth, super smart Harvard grads, college bound. Yes, the people a part of all those groups, those socioeconomic wonderful groups, the high list. The people with the giant vocabularies that makes all of us go, what'd he say? What? What's that? Yeah. So he's using you and me to make fools out of them. And he has chosen the weak ones of the world, that's you and me, to shame the mighty. And he has chosen those of humble birth, you and me, the despised, to despise them who are nothing, to bring to nothing them who think they're something. Verse 29. No, 27. Forget about it. I can't read my own writing. 29. See? Told you I was dumb. So that no flesh might glory before them. He has done this, my friend, in me. He has done this in me. He's wanting to do it in you. He is. He's wanting to do it in you. The question is, will you allow him? You see, when I was 19 years old, my whole life was changed. I was introduced, again, the dumb girl. And I happened to start dating a guy who had a college degree. It took him 10 years to get it. And his parents did pretty good, right? They were an upper middle class family. Dad had an insurance agency. They lived on a golf course. They had nice new cars, a nice custom home. And, I wouldn't say the greatest town in California, Stockton, California. But they did really well for themselves. And I saw wow, I saw success in such a beautiful way for the first time. And he introduced me. JP is his name. He and I are still friends to this day, 31 years later. If he had not introduced me to that world, that business world, people who were educated, people who lived very differently, and those people challenged me to think differently than the way I had been thinking and to see myself differently. You see, I believe that if we're smart, and if we're dumb, and we want to get smarter, we're going to learn from people who have more success than we have. So I got introduced to that concept that I could learn to do anything if I chose to humble myself, get hungry and teachable. That if I was willing to invest money into learning, even from a millionaire. So I ended up having the opportunity to invest a lot of money, like $1,500. That's what the total cost was for me to go to my first training seminar. And I sat before a millionaire. Now, the guy turned out to be a crook, but boy, did I learn some things. Most of what he taught went right over my head. But there was a few things that just somehow resonated. And something that really resonated was that, hold on a second. If I'm the dumbest person in this room, which I know I am, I was so intimidated and terrified, friend. I was so intimidated, so terrified. I didn't have the right clothes. I had my giant Coke bottle glasses. I had the worst hair. Didn't know how to take care of myself, right? I'm the welfare check, okay? So out of place. These are not my people. But I thought to myself, man, if I'm the dumbest person in this room, and if it takes me 20 years to learn what he knows because I'm so dumb, and if I fail his income, and by the way, there were 4 millionaires in the room. They were all men. I'm a chick. I'm 19. So if I'm the dumbest person in the room, which I'm pretty confident I am, if it takes me 20 years because I'm so slow and so dense and so dumb, it takes me 20 years to learn what they know. And if I fail their income by 90%, I'll be doing much better than I am with my job at the mall. I was working at the mall. I got a job at JCPenney's, man. It was the biggest job ever for my whole family. That's when I jumped in with both feet on the quest of learning. Learning techniques and strategies and skills from people who had them. You see, where I came from, you didn't pay money to learn. You didn't pay money to learn from someone that was successful. Where I come from, if you got a problem and you have a good relationship with a family member, you ask them for advice. And when you ask them for advice, what happens? They can only tell you from their own experience what they did to solve their problem that ended in total mediocrity and failure, not success. Because my family didn't have any success, so how in the world could they guide me on having it? So where I came from, people didn't talk about money, how to make it, how to keep it, how to make it grow. You didn't talk about that. And not only that, but most of them were broke. Most of them were doing drugs and most of them were alcoholics. So, what kind of advice could I get from the alcoholics and the drug addicts? What kind of financial advice could I get from them? None that I would want to repeat. That's for darn sure. What about marriage? Oh, man, I asked my parents who beat each other up every week about some marriage advice, who I should marry. No, I don't think that was a good idea. What about parenting? Oh, the people who abuse their children. Those are great people to ask, like how to raise kids. No, right? So where I come from, the side of the tracks where I come from, either you have nobody you can ask for advice for, or you turn on the TV and you ask Oprah, right? You're going to watch TV and try to get some advice from Oprah or a Dr. Phil, who didn't exist back in my time, right? Oprah was just starting, right? So that's what you do. You like turn on the talk show host and you're hoping, well, in today's day, what do you do? What do you do? If you grew up the way that I did, what do? You go and you ask who? YouTube. Hello, Dani. YouTube. I can learn anything on YouTube. How well is it working for you? Is it working? Are you financially independent yet? Is your marriage like smoking hot and passionate and harmonious and peaceful? Huh? Have you reduced the crazy amount of stress you had as a mom? And are you like thoroughly, solidly confident that you are leading and training your children with the skills they should have so that they don't have to go through the trouble you've gone through in life, especially financial trouble? But that's what people do where I come from. Yeah. So if you don't have people you can talk to, then you go to YouTube or what I call Rabbi Google. You Rabbi Google it. And Rabbi Google usually leads you to YouTube. And God forbid you're going to get advice from Facebook. Lord have mercy. Help me. But that's what people do where I come from. But that's not what this passage is talking about. And that's not what's going to help you. So at 19, I was 20 by this point. I jumped in with both feet. And I started to pay to learn from successful people. I wanted to make $1 million. I didn't want to be broke like my family. So what I paid for the knowledge that a millionaire had. I paid to learn from that millionaire. Did it pay off? Yeah. By the time I was 23, I made my first $1 million. I did. That was also, by the way, after being homeless by that millionaire who actually embezzled me from the business that I had started. The millionaire embezzled me. He embezzled a lot of people and he got in lots of trouble. He ain't in business anymore. God took care of that guy. So, I'm going to challenge you. Do you come from where I came from? You see this passage and you realize, wow, he's talking to you. But how do you break the cycle of stupid, weak, and low birth? How do you get in the position where God can take you and make fools as the so-called, out of the so-called wise, out of the so-called mighty, and out of the so-called noble, high birth people? How? I can just tell you how he did it with me. In fact, I'm not only going to tell you how to do it, I'm going to show you how he did it. I'm going to give you all the same exact techniques and skills that he's taught me along the way that took me from broke and homeless to a multimillionaire and completely financially independent, totally financially free. So financially free that I don't have to work to make money anymore. My salary is donated to freeing kids out of the sex trade. The profits from our company, after the staff gets their portion and the IRS gets their fair share, whatever, and after the future is taken care of for our staff, or future investments for the business, well, I'll just tell you, last year alone, we helped over 1 million people with building houses, freeing them out of the sex trade, feeding 242,000 of them, and supplying water to over 1 million people. Total, our entire organization with our clients and our team, our staff here every day, my coworkers, we actually helped a total between our clients and our staff, 2,182,000 people. Their lives were changed because that's what we do with the profits of this business. And that's what our clients do also. Rather than adding more greed to themselves, they've actually started to put purpose to money by helping people who are truly in need. So I'm not only going to tell you how I did it, I'm going to show you. But the question is, are you going to be like all the rest of the people who are just like the ones where I come from? Or are you going to be different? Are you going to do something they would never do? And that is spend money, learn, and apply. Spend money, Dani, I already know how to do that. No, I'm sorry. I used the wrong word. Invest money. Invest into learning from a multimillionaire, a woman who went from homeless to millions, now helping to change the lives of millions. The event is taking place in exactly 4 weeks, 28th through the 30th of June. First Steps to Success is the name. Go to Dani, DaniJohnson.com and get registered right now. The ticket is $700, actually $799. But if you step up right now, you will save $200 off of that ticket immediately. You get to keep that $200 in your pocket right now if you step up and head to the website or call our phone number 866-760-8255. Friend, all those other internet so-called gurus have led you into spending more money, and you're still further in debt. I promise you, I guarantee you that after 30 days after you attend First Steps to Success, by July 31st, if you have not got more money in your bank account from the techniques that I showed you in those 3 days you and I are going to have together on the 28th of June through the 30th, if you don't have more money in your bank account, if you have not applied the information you learned on how to grow in your job, to get a raise, to get on a path to get more fulfillment. If you want a raise, I'm going to show you how to get it. If you want more fulfillment, I'm going to show you how to get it. If you want your sales to grow, I will show you how to get that happening. I know how to do it. I've been doing it for 30 years. So if that hasn't happened in 30 days, you call our office, 866-760-8255, and you'll get your money back. I don't want your money. The reality is your money went to feed an orphan. But the orphan doesn't even want your money if you're going to use First Step Success as entertainment. I'm not your entertainer, and I am not your talk show host. I'm your sister who grew up in the same place you did, of low birth, a weak suck, and stupid. I grew up where you grew up, friend. The difference between you and me is two things. One, I took a major leap of faith and I invested money to learn from people who had what I wanted. And I studied hard, and I did what I was told, and I got a finished copy. And that's been tens of millions of dollars through the years. I want to show you how to do the same exact thing so that you can do whatever you want with it. What do you want to do with it? You want to buy a new house? We'll show you how to do that. Do you want to have several of them? Do you want to become an investor? Do you want to build a business? Do you want to travel the world as my husband and my family and I have traveled the world together? I've been to 54 countries, places like Antarctica, Israel, Bora Bora. Oh, Lord. All over Europe, every place that I've ever want to see in Europe, I've been to. Italy, the pizza, the pasta, France, the cheese, the meat, the bread, the desserts. Greece. Norway, seeing the northern lights. Sweden. Oh, my gosh, the beauty of Sweden. The beauty of Denmark. Germany. Prague, glorious, beautiful places, and stepping foot on all 7 continents before I was 50 years old. Growing up on welfare, don't matter what birth you had, friend. What matters with what your decision you're going to make right now. I know you don't have the money, but I also know you know how to find it. You know how to find it. You know you do. So go find it. I know you know how to change plans. You've been doing it your whole life. But the plans that you've been changing have kept you stuck right where you're at. If you want new plans and a new change, if you must have more out of life, go to DaniJohnson.com right now and register June 28th through the 30th, First Steps to Success. There's also First Step Success taking place in Australia, in Latvia, Canada. Check our website, click on events, and you'll see exactly where the next First Step Success is. If you're in the United States, you'll be joining me in June. Yes, 4 weeks from right now, so that you can get and cross over to the calling in which you've been called. So you can be one of those, as I have become one of those, where the stupid girl has come from the wise. You're saying, like, how, Dani? I've had governments call on me, friend. I've had the Russian government call on me to come and teach their entrepreneurs skills, the skills that I learned to be able to make millions of dollars. I've had the Latvian government, the Honduras government, the Belizean government, various different governments who have called upon me, asking me to help their citizens, to help their cities. Hello? The dumb girl being called by the smart ones. I've had politicians in our training seminars. I've had famous people, actors, actresses, directors, songwriters, singers, big business people, small business people that have gone through these, pastors. I've taught in the largest churches in the world. the smart of good birth, the mighty ones, calling upon the dumb, weak suck one, saying, please help. So I'm living proof that you and I are called to much greater than what we are doing right now. And what's standing in between you and where you want to go is whether or not you are going to get over your excuses of, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, I have other plans, what am I going to do for childcare? What about my spouse? You've had these excuses your entire life. And if you would like to not be owned by those excuses anymore, you're going to just go over right now, click on First Steps to Success at DaniJohnson.com on events. Click on events, drop down bar, First Step to Success, June 28th through the 30th. Get it done right now and step into your calling and begin to gain the skills where you will be the one. You will be the one confounding the so-called wise. All right, friend. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll talk to you soon. God bless. Bye.